SicEm365 Radio Live Guest VIP Hotline is sponsored by Stonewood Dental. We are all in this together.
All right, from the 9-7-2, Big 12 failure to expand, I think, is the major cause eventually of their downfall. Oklahoma will do fine. In the SEC, Texas will be okay once they get back to normal, if they can, like the days of Mac Brown. Yeah, I'm on record as saying I think both will be fine. I know they're going to go 7-5 and 6-6. I think they'll both be fine. There won't be, it won't be without bumps in the road. I think in fact, this could make them stronger because of who they're playing and what they can also tell the recruits as well.
So this is from Oklahoma State's new president just about 20 minutes ago. Earlier today, OU delivered a document to the Big 12 Conference office which indicated they will not sign the grant of rights agreement in 24-25. This action was strategic, deliberate, and as a result of months of planning with the SEC. We believe these conversations, which developed over a long period of time, are in clear breach of the bylaws of the Big 12 Conference and broke a bond of trust between our universities in existence for decades. It is difficult to understand how an Oklahoma institution of higher education would follow the University of Texas to the detriment of the state of Oklahoma. Nevertheless, we are turning our eyes to the future and looking at what is best for Oklahoma State University. Over the last few days, I've received countless phone calls, text, emails from high-ranking officials. And regardless of what comes next, OSU is dedicated to the state of Oklahoma. And then it kind of brags about, the land grant mission and world-class faculty and all that stuff, and it closes out with that. But, a stronger worded statement than some of the others we've seen, certainly, and this from the Oklahoma State president.
Dr. Livingstone was a part of that call with the Texas and Oklahoma presidents or whoever that was a part of that call yesterday evening. Other than that, they had Baylor, the statement late Friday, and that's it. I do think you'll hear at some point, and we discussed this, Mac Rhodes, the Friday after Big 12 Media Days in Arlington, he was in a Board of Regents meeting. That was part of a Board of Regents meeting. And then he was supposed to be out for a couple of weeks, gone, off the grid, gone. And he couldn't even get to Wednesday without something flaring up. I have back and forth just asked a couple of questions, trying to get a little bit of feedback. He can't really tell me much other than maybe direct me in certain places. But I got a feeling I don't think he's going to be a part of the show again this week. My God, the guy needs a break. But can you imagine? You need to get off the grid. You're basically, but then again, you make good money. This is what you do. And you know what? Being on vacation, it kind of has to sometimes wait. It just kind of doesn't mean you can't try to juggle both if you can. Number to call, 254-339-1122. From Daniel, Oklahoma and Texas are probably looking at A&M's first year in the SEC, in my opinion. A&M went 10-2 in their first year, spanked Oklahoma. Hope springs eternal. Of course, they had a guy named Johnny Football who made that happen as well, or a lot of that happen. From Hokie Country in Virginia, great show, guys. Glad I found you, the 336. Thank you for texting us as well.
All right, let's see.
I can imagine it's really fun to watch this when you know that you have nothing to worry about, Virginia Tech or something. You're like, hey, we're in the ACC. We don't have to worry about this.
Yeah. From what I believe is Rodrigo, got a little jumbled in the translation here on the text on the phone line. Rodrigo, you're on SicEm365 Radio. Thanks for your call.
How you doing? This is it's actually Paulo. I don't know why it says Rodrigo,
okay.
But I just had a quick question. I discovered you guys recently while looking up UT and Oklahoma news, and you guys are awesome. My question for you is, I'm from the University of Houston, so I want to know, what do you think could be the impact to the American Athletic Conference with everything that's happening now with UT and OU? And also, I feel bad for you guys. I don't think Baylor should be in a non-Power 5, so.
Yeah, I don't know if I got a text. It might have been from you as well. I think the AAC right now is kind of in a position where, you could look at it as if they might lose some teams or maybe they morph into something. But one of the reasons is they're the AAC for a reason, unfortunately, even with some really good schools and some great places where they are. man, it's all about eyeballs, right? Isn't that right? You could be the prettiest campus and the most beautiful school. That's why Pepperdine's not a football team. You know, I mean, otherwise they'd be in the SEC.
Well, and you look at the schools that are there.
And we're going to make sure we discuss the AAC as you asked.
Tulane in New Orleans, that's an NFL town, and Tampa and USF, the NFL town. Orlando, not an NFL town, but not really what you'd call a sports town. So to speak, so you've got all these East Carolina, which I'm not sure what city it's in, but I mean, they're all Houston. It's a pro sports town, all the way around. So it's kind of unfortunate for those schools, which are big schools. I think UCF might be the second largest in Florida now. It's huge. It's a gigantic school, but it's unfortunate for them that they kind of have to wait and play this waiting game. But strangely enough, they might be in the most position of power they've ever been in before.
There's not even a doubt about it, Paul.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, how could they have been in a stronger position? I mean, they can't lose in this situation. Either they remain the AAC, which is what they were to begin with, and nothing changes, or they play the cards right, and they're now part of the mix as a power conference potentially. If they raid the Big 12, for example, or if the Big 12 raids them, or they just decide, hey, we're either doing it one way or the other. Let's just mutually agree this is how we're going to mold these conferences together. I mean, that's potentially out there for them. I would say, with you being an AAC fan, a Houston fan in particular, I brought up last week, if you're one of these conferences that's looking to become a super conference and you're looking around at the possibilities, I know that Houston's not a Power 5, and I'm not sure where they fit in the landscape of all the different metrics and things that people are throwing out there. But, it is a big city, big school, and I could see where they would potentially be of interest to, a power conference to bring in for the Houston market, more so than a Texas Tech or a TCU or a Baylor even. I could see that as a possibility. But bottom line is, as a Houston fan, you're in the driver's seat. You're in a great position because either nothing's changing or things are changing, and they're only changing for the better for you as a University of Houston fan. So I could see them getting some power play, just because of the market and all that. I could also see where they're still just viewed as a non-Power 5, and people still prefer the TCU or the Baylor or the Texas Tech or whatever. But, I mean, it's all speculation. Anything's possible right now, but I think for Houston in particular, they're good no matter what happens from here on out.
Yeah, they may not get the eyeballs like even A&M or Texas in Houston, but it's still Houston. And there are a few of those, there's a few campuses in markets that large that it's not like they're completely non-existent. And if all of a sudden they're in a bigger, better conference, and then you never know if they make a run like they did back in the days of Bill Yeoman. I'm not saying I'm not. That's 40 years ago. You never know, but they're not going to carry the market. But they're still Houston. It's a big city. God Almighty, it's a huge city.
One thing about Houston, the thing that it does bring is, you guys know anybody that lives in Houston? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, there's only like 18 million people.
Yeah, exactly. Compare them to people who live in Dallas on levels of civic pride. Like, the people in Houston love the city of Houston.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of civic pride. Dallas, I don't want to knock them, but it's not as much. I mean, the people in Houston.
I think Dallas thinks they're much better than Houston across the board.
But as far as, like, I have, like, family.
What does this have to do with college football?
Well, I'm telling you is that, like, as far as, let me get there.
I'm trying.
That if you got a city that, like, cares enough, then maybe you can. I mean, maybe you can will it to happen because Houston cares about what they have. I mean, they're locked into what they want. So if you tell the people in Houston, this is what you got to do it. Most of the time they do.
Yeah, I just, man, it's you wonder if you took all of the power group of 5 schools, how many of them, if you could add 4, could actually save your conference, and could they save your conference?
I can't.
Because otherwise it's like it's a pot of gumbo. There's a lot of stuff in it.
Well, and why wouldn't the Big 12 have done it 4 years ago when they had the chance to?
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody out there. I think, Cincinnati, Houston, throw whoever you want to, UCF. I mean, they could make it work, but is it going to really be at the level of the others, their peers? No, it's not. It doesn't matter who they add. They could add everybody. They could add the entire country. It's still not going to be on the level of the other conferences. So they can add enough to make it work, but there's no one to add to make it as sound as it was previously or replace the brands that they would be missing out on. Even if they were to add 6 or 8 teams, it's still not making up for just what Oklahoma and Texas bring to the table individually, which is why they're in the position to do what they're doing right now. So, it's a crapshoot. And the thing about Houston, too, is like I was saying last week, it all sounds good. Hey, let's go grab Houston. Let's put them in the Big 12 or let's blend into the AAC or whatever. But that would, as much as sturdy ground would be great for the Texas schools that are currently wondering what their future looks like, adding Houston would also be a major blow, and you'd be adding them to your level playing field. So, yeah, something's got to give, and there's benefits to Houston. There's also some pitfalls to them, and that would be putting a pinch on your recruiting and bringing them up to your level, like I was saying a bunch last week. So, yeah, they're definitely a team that's in a very favorable spot, I think, right now for either upward movement or just – sitting where they are and being happy about it.
All right. From by the way, one more text line. Let's see here. Oklahoma State fan. I thought it was texting us. I'm Jake. I recently found. I want to say I'm Jake from State Farm. Recently found your channel. Huge fan of Oklahoma State. Heard yesterday that OSU was talking to the Big Ten. I would love it if we went to the Big Ten, not just for football but wrestling. We had that from the 405 earlier today. Also. We have one of the best well-rounded athletics department left in the Big 12. The only thing that could hurt us are academics, but Nebraska isn't an AAU school, or at least they weren't when they joined anymore, so I think Oklahoma could make it to the Big Ten. Jake, thanks for your text. Appreciate you watching and listening to the show. All right, when we come back, Nicole Auerbach will join us, theathletic.com. She's written a few columns about college football in her time. She's also very well versed in a lot of what's going on with the Olympic Games in Tokyo. Nicole Auerbach will join us next on SicEm365 Radio. Waco Custom Market.